Elite athletes can't do what every 2-year-old does effortlessly. Heels flat on the ground. Knees bent past 90 degrees. Spine stacked straight up like a pillar, not a curve. Watch any 2-year-old at a playground and you'll see it. They drop into a full squat to examine a bug, and they stay there. 10 minutes, 20, no wobble, no strain, no hands on the ground for balance. Try it yourself right now. Most adults can't get their heels flat on the floor in that position. Your body simply won't let you. Something closed off between that toddler you once were and the adult reading this. And it happened so quietly you never noticed the door shutting. This isn't about being out of shape. Elite athletes lose this movement too. It has nothing to do with muscle and almost everything to do with a joint. Most people have never thought about the ankle, and specifically how far it can bend forward, a motion called dorsiflexion. Every human baby is born with it. Almost every industrialized adult loses it. So where did it go? And why did it survive everywhere else on Earth except in places with chairs? In 1955, an anthropologist named Gordon Hughes published a study in the journal American Anthropologist that mapped this exact question. He cataloged resting postures across cultures on every inhabited continent. How people sat when there was no furniture around. What he found was strikingly consistent. In societies without chairs, adults rested in a deep squat, heels flat, for long stretches, the same position that toddler holds at the playground. It wasn't a stretch. It wasn't exercise. It was simply how the body defaulted to rest. Richard Lee, an anthropologist who spent years documenting the Juhansi, sometimes called the Kung in the Kalahari Desert, described this same posture in daily life. People squatted to cook, to talk, to wait, to work with their hands. Not because they were taught to. Because no one had ever engineered it out of them. Picture a Kalahari camp at dusk. Smoke rising thin off a fire. A group settles in around it, not on logs, not on stones, into a squat, weight balanced over the feet, spines upright. Someone hands over a root to peel. Conversation drifts for an hour. Nobody's legs go numb. Nobody shifts every few minutes the way you do in a hard chair. The body is simply parked in its most efficient idle position, the one your ancestors used, for nearly the entire span of human existence, long before the first stool was ever carved. Here's the part that reframes everything you just heard. You weren't born without this ability. You were born with it, fully installed, and it was taken from you, not by age, but by furniture. Chairs are a surprisingly recent invention in the story of the human body. For most of the roughly 300,000 years anatomically modern humans have existed, sitting meant squatting, kneeling, or crouching on the ground. Raised seating with back support only became common for ordinary people in the last couple of centuries, and only became constant, school desks, car seats, office chairs, couches, within living memory. Your joints didn't have time to adapt. They just stopped being asked to do the job. The biomechanist Katie Bauman, who studies how modern environments reshape the body, has written extensively about this trade. Every hour spent in a chair is an hour the ankle, hip, and lower back are not required to hold deep, flat-footed squat. Tissue that isn't used shortens. Ligaments that aren't loaded stiffen. By adulthood, most people in chair-based societies have simply lost the range of motion required to do what every toddler on the planet does without thinking. But this isn't just a party trick you can no longer perform. That's the smaller half of the story. James Sussman, who has spent decades studying the Juhansi and wrote about their way of life in his book Affluence Without Abundance, points to something researchers have noticed again and again in populations that never adopted Western seating: strikingly low rates of the lower back pain that plagues industrialized adults. The deep squat isn't just a resting posture. It keeps the spine in a position that distributes load evenly, keeps the hip joints mobile through their full range, and keeps the muscles around the pelvis active even during rest. Chair sitting does the opposite. It rounds the lower spine, switches off the deep stabilizing muscles, and leaves the hip flexors chronically shortened. Think about how much of your day is spent exactly that way. The car seat on the way to work. The desk chair for 8 hours. The couch at night. Your body is in a chair-shaped position for the overwhelming majority of your waking life, and it was never designed for that. It was designed for the position that Toddler in the playground still remembers, and that you have almost completely unlearned. So is this reversible? To a point, yes. Physical therapists and researchers who study joint mobility note that the tissue changes behind lost squat mobility, tight calves, stiff ankles, a shortened Achilles tendon, are adaptations, not damage. Adaptations can be nudged back, slowly, through the ankle, simply being asked to bend that way again. It's uncomfortable at first, precisely because the movement has been dormant, in some cases for decades. That discomfort isn't your body breaking. It's your body remembering something it was never supposed to forget. Here's the piece that should sit uneasily with you. This wasn't a skill your ancestors trained for. It required no gym, no coach, no deliberate practice. A toddler in the Kalahari and a toddler in a modern hospital nursery start out identically equipped. Same ankles, same hips, same capacity to drop into that position and rest there for an hour. One of them keeps it for life because nothing around them ever suggests otherwise. The other loses it within a handful of years, sat down into a high chair, then a car seat, then a school desk, one raised surface after another, each one quietly telling the ankle it no longer needs to bend that far. Nobody decided to take this from you. No single moment marked the loss. It happened one chair at a time, so gradually, that by the time you were old enough to notice your own stiffness, you'd already forgotten there was ever anything to notice. A toddler can hold a position that would dislocate your hips. Not because that toddler is stronger or younger, but because no one has sat them down long enough yet to take it away.